help people recognize, reframe, and reset.
Do you want to tell that story?
I'll let you tell that story.
Hence the On Your Mind podcast. Welcome to another episode of On Your Mind podcast. I'm so excited to share today's episode with you, where I interview my wife and my business partner, Mary Woodlief. We talk a little bit about our personal stories, our relationship, and how we've woven meditation and brain health into the very fabric of who we are and how we raise our family. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this episode, and maybe it's even food for thought as to how you bring brain health principles into your most important relationships. Well, babe, thank you so much for joining me on the On Your Mind podcast. I'm so grateful that my wife, Mary Woodlief, is here. She's got her notepad and her pen ready. And what are you going to enlighten us with today?
I just brought my notepad and pen in case I need to remember some things and write them down because, I might forget since I haven't been meditating.
Oh, should we talk about that? I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey to meditation and how you got started almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, actually, it was 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, I decided that I wanted to do something really hard for myself. And I really didn't want to run marathons or do anything that was too physically hard. So I decided that I would learn to meditate. And because I knew it was hard, because people have said they tried to meditate and it was very, very hard. So I hired a meditation coach named Peggy Breeze. She came to my house every week. And we started from the beginning and I kept wondering, she would come and she would spend an hour and I would pay her for an hour. And we would spend like 51 minutes talking about the concept of meditation and then kind of like the just Ayurvedic principles and breath and all these things. And then we would actually meditate for maybe 7 to 9 minutes. And I kept wondering, like, why aren't we meditating more? And then I realized that, she's working me up. And I'm starting with 7 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes. And, after she'd been coming to my house for 6 months, then we were meditating for, 15 or 20 minutes. And I really did love it. I loved learning it. I loved learning how to sit with myself and the principles. And it was really life-changing for me.
Thanks so much for sharing a little bit more about your journey. It's funny even for me just hearing new bits about how Peggy worked you up and challenged you more and more. It almost reminds me of that 6th pillar of brain health, mental fitness, the fact that it was hard and you kept doing it and it was like a muscle that you built over time. Did you feel any different? Did you see any changes during that time you were working with Peggy?
Oh, definitely. I definitely felt changes and felt more in touch with my emotions and myself and could sit with myself. But yeah, I did notice a big difference. And it was really life-changing for me, which led me to the next hard thing that I did, which was to decide that, this is so great. I should start a meditation studio and turn it into a business. And that was also a very hard and long learning experience, but a great experience.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned Mastermind because a lot of people they see me now running Mastermind, being the face of the business, and they say, oh my gosh, you founded Mastermind. Tell me all about it. And depending on how much time we have, I tell a different version of the story. But we have the time here, and I'd love to hear more about what you just said, the hard thing you did of starting a meditation studio, but really underneath that was a desire to share this practice with the world, with Dallas, in a way that you thought would resonate.
Yeah, I really did love meditating, and I thought I have to do this every day, and what's the easiest way for me to do it? And at the time, we'd moved into this new office space, and there was empty retail space right, 2 stories, 3 stories below us. And I thought, I'm just going to take some empty retail space and I'm going to turn it into a place where I can go meditate every day. And then I thought, well, I need to work out too. So maybe I'll throw some weights in and we can just call it mind and muscle. And we'll lift weights and meditate. And people laughed at me. And I'm sure that exists someplace in the world now. But I eventually thought, okay, we'll take the weights off and we'll just keep it with meditation. And so
thank goodness someone talked some sense into you.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube page at Dorsey Standish for all episodes of On Your Mind. And follow me on social media at Dorsey Standish. Okay, so Mind and Muscle didn't fly, but I have to say I love your reference to the pillars of brain health. Like, we know resistance training is good for the body and the brain. We know that movement is good. So,
Well, this was 10 years ago, so clearly I was kind of ahead of
we're
my
ahead of the
time.
game.
And so, but yeah, I thought the meditation part was really important. And I felt like, for me, I needed a space. And I was like, surely other people would love to have space and to just sit and learn this practice and to kind of develop it into their own superpower in terms of just being in touch with yourself and present. And it was like, it's just really a cleansing process. And so I started the studio and built it, and the idea was a gym for your brain. It's like you can go to the gym and run on the treadmill and lift weights for your health. You can come to Mastermind and meditate for the wellness of your brain and your brain health and your mental health. And that's what we did.
Yeah, and the studio was so beautiful. I remember you even had a custom tea blend made that everybody was obsessed with and couldn't get enough of, from the brain tea to, I think there was a moss wall.
There was a moss wall. There was a custom scented candle. The whole idea is that you just would walk in and you would have your cup of tea and there would be the candle burning, and it would just be a trigger to your brain of like, oh, I'm here to do this. And then you would go in and sit through a guided meditation class and that had a little bit of neuroscience, a little bit of, we didn't want to be woo-woo. We didn't want to be we wanted to be accessible and based in science. And we wanted people to know that when they came in and did a meditation, that they were really working on their brain. Like I said, it was a gym for your brain. And so there needed to be a little learning and a little education behind that. And then a guided practice, because guided practices are so much easier when you're just learning how to meditate, because even though you're thinking about what the teacher and narrator is saying, you're focused on that. You're still focused on that one thing, and you're blocking out other thoughts, and it can really help you kind of settle into meditation. So, yeah.
Of course, yeah. Look at you. You need to teach for for Mastermind one day. I love it. But I love that you mentioned too the environmental cues for our brain, the tea, the scented candle. That's something that we talk about really early on when somebody's starting a meditation practice, is to actually create a space to do it, because it's such a cue for our nervous systems. And you created such a beautiful space. And that's actually where we met for the first time.
It is where we met for the first time in Mastermind.
Yeah. You want to tell that story?
I'll let you tell that story.
Yes. What's cool now is that it's 2025. We are married. We have 2 beautiful boys. We run the company together. I do most of the day-to-day, and you get to be behind the scenes still doing all your amazing marketing. And if there's ever a need for a scented candle or a logo or something like that, that's all you. But, I mean, wouldn't you agree? Been a little messy the past 8 years to get to that place, because when we met, there was such an instant connection between us. I still remember, and you had hired somebody else to run Mastermind on a day-to-day basis. So I auditioned, and this is back, I was trying to figure out, do I go back to the corporate world? Do I go to India and become a yogi? Or do I try to make a living in this wellness space somehow? And I met Melissa Marks Garner for coffee, and she's like, have you heard of Mastermind? You need to go meet Chelsea, who's the amazing teacher you hired to run the studio. And so I knew Chelsea. I was integrated in the studio, and I show up for my first class. I think it was Heart or Gratitude. And then you walk in the door. And immediately, like the way that Chelsea looked, and it's like, oh, you're here. It's Dorsey's first class. And you were like, that's why I'm here. And immediately I had that Mary Woodlief effect of like, wow, this is like someone who's very confident, very calm, very grounded. And you came to that first class, and I guess you liked it because you kept coming back to my classes, and our conversations afterwards would get longer and longer. And we talk about everything from how to bring this practice into the corporate world to TI, where I used to work. We talked about starting you a website, a blog for meditation. And I remember the time I was traveling back from from seeing family in DC and got caught in a storm. And I remember like we were texting, we were just friends at the time, but you helped me figure out how to get a car back to Dallas and to be back the next day. And I started to see you as someone who was so inspiring, of course, in the business space, someone who also loved meditation and John Kabat-Zinn and the neuroscience of mindfulness, and someone with just this beautiful heart, this beautiful son. I got to meet our older son, Owen, with you. And I totally fell for you. Yeah, what was that like from your perspective?
Oh, it's about the same. I mean, obviously I liked your class. It was great. I mean, you had a great energy, and, you know, there's just people that you are around that you want to be around more. And that was just the way that I felt. So, and look, it all worked out.
It did all work out. To learn more about today's amazing guest, my wife, Mary Woodlief, you can check out Allen Media at allenmedia.com. That's ALLYN media.com. I know that you talk about Mastermind as one of the hardest things you've ever done to create that beautiful studio space and then ultimately have to transition the business model. But I always say it's what brought us together from a romantic perspective. And I don't know that I give you and your business partner, Jennifer, enough credit for giving me that spark that I needed at a time in my life where I was trying to figure out, where am I going? How do I make a living doing this work? And it was like, once I stepped into the doors of Mastermind, there's this emphasis on gym for your brain. I'm an engineer. I can speak that language. When you gave me that format for classes, there was like science, quote, practice, guided practice, to your point. I remember you saying you wanted it to be like the McDonald's of meditation, like every teacher, like just get an experience you knew you could trust and count on. And you were so diligent about scripts and curriculums. And it's hard working with meditation teachers. You kind of want to do their own thing and float in and float out. But I learned so much from going through that process and being part of that business that you had created. And it gave me a path in my own career to start to see the intersection of science and wellness, to start to realize, you know, I can teach yoga, but mindfulness is really where my gift is and where my calling is. Went to study mindfulness-based stress reduction at your encouragement, and then went back to University of Texas at Dallas to get a master's in neuroscience to understand the brain better, also in line with the Mastermind brand. And what's been so cool over the past 7 or 8 years as we've known each other and worked together and grown a ton personally, we've also grown professionally in that I've been able to take over the Mastermind brand, to take that amazing foundation that you set for everything from the focus on science to the aesthetics to your ultimate goal that this practice just reach people without any of those woo-woo barriers, and take that brand and that shell and fill it with my life and love and experience and passion for this work, and bring other people along on the journey, certified teachers, speak to hundreds, maybe even thousands of companies at this point. And that all started right down there in that shopping center when we met at the Mastermind studio in 2017. And I don't know that I give you enough credit for your original idea, which we always joke you were like 10 years ahead of the game pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I often, like many times I thought, well, maybe the time will come when we can reopen that and do that, because I think it's much needed.
It is.
But I think that what we have now, or what Mastermind is now, is very different, but also very the same in terms of teaching people and focusing on those principles, the same principles, but in a different audience and kind of for a different purpose. And, you know, it's still getting out there, but maybe, you know, someday we'll be ready again for a drop-in meditation studio.
I know. I hold that dream of yours close to my heart. And I think that could definitely be a reality in the next 10, maybe even 20 years. I mean,
or maybe 5.
Maybe 5. Yeah. I love the fact that we can offer that safe space and those environmental cues to folks and make something that can seem so difficult, to your point, oh, meditation's so hard, just really enjoyable and pleasurable and connection oriented, which, you know, we get better in community. And one of the things we've been able to do with Mastermind, even virtually, is create a sense of community and connection within the groups that we speak to.
Yeah, I do think that community is a big a big, and I'm going to go back and say opening this Mastermind studio was truly one of the hardest things that I've ever done, mostly because I had no idea what I was getting into. I don't know, have no experience in retail whatsoever. But also the piece that I missed, and it was one of the really most important pieces, was the work that it takes to build a community that's going to show up on a regular basis to do something like meditation. And it really is, in Dallas especially, there's a community for that here. At the time, 10 years ago, it was it was smaller, and it's not all the same. Like, everybody wants to do it in a different way. We were very science focused. There's people that want to do it with a more of a yoga focus or more of an Eastern focus. But it was that the sense of community was something that I just completely missed in terms of building. I just thought, well, if we just make a really nice studio with really great teachers and a really interesting class, people will just show up. But really, when they show up and when you meditate with people, you want community and you want to come back and see some of those same people. And I think that's really important. So, and I think that this podcast is a way to bring people in and build community around these ideas that you're out there promoting and teaching.
I love that idea that we can expand the Mastermind community even virtually through this podcast, and maybe physical studio coming back down the line. But for now, we can start to extend the reaches through this work. I want to know what's on your mind. If you have any questions for me or my guests, or you have a guest you'd like me to interview, you can DM me directly on Instagram at Dorsey Standish, or send me an email at hello@dorseystandish.com. My clients get to see me speak about brain health and wellness and talk about things. What's it like to live with somebody who's obsessed with brain health? Like, what's it like to live with me? I know that you and Owen get kind of annoyed when I go around and turn off all the lights in the house at 8:30 p.m. so we can keep our circadian rhythms aligned. And I'm saying we need to eat these leafy greens, or we need to do this. What is it like to live with me, and how have you seen our relationship benefit our brain health together and our families over the years?
Yeah, I don't think that living with you because you teach brain health, I don't think that's really it. I think you teach brain health because of who you are. And from the time I first met you, and I think you even told me this, like, your love language is optimization, and you're constantly making a list of what you need to do to be better and better and better at something. And it might be, drink this glass of Element every morning and do 30 minutes of yoga, and then do 20 minutes of meditation, and then be sure and eat.
That was my morning this morning. I had a good morning.
And then eat something leafy green today, and, and eat some lean proteins and have 20 grams of protein, plant-based protein at 3:45 in the afternoon, and, start turning the lights down at 8 o'clock, and wash your face, brush your teeth, take out your contacts, and put your glasses on by 9:15 so that you can be in bed at 9:30. So it's really that
my life sounds so glamorous.
Yes, it's really the list of optimizing your life, and as we have many conversations about, that is the opposite of me. Every day is different. So, and somewhere in between is, a nice place to be, where some days you can have coffee before Element, or some days you can go to bed at 11:30 instead of 9:30. But I think that, like I said, I think really you're in the place where you should be, and what makes sense for you, because you're always about, how do we make things better? And in this case, how are we making brains better? How are we making living better, or health better, or how are we living healthier lives? And so I've learned to, in the beginning, I kind of, took a little offense to it sometimes when you tell me it's time for me to go to bed, or do you want to come meditate? Do you want to come meditate? Now I just know that that's just you trying to share your knowledge and share your health and wellness, and because you want me to be good, and Owen to be good, and Beck to be good, and I'm okay saying no, and sometimes I'm okay saying yes, but it's just, just like who you are.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that this podcast is a way, to your point, to share some of that knowledge that I can't help but share. I often joke when I'm speaking, I tell people that my wife has banned me from saying the phrase research shows because y'all are not my audience. You don't necessarily always want to hear it, but it's interesting to see that perspective on your part of optimization. And it's kind of that engineering brain, like constantly optimizing. And sometimes it's exhausting to be inside my head. But my hope is that focus on growth and I hear you saying the words getting better, but I believe John Kabat-Zinn talks about the only goal of meditation is to become more of who you really are. And I believe that as I do these things, I get to be a fuller expression of who I'm meant to be in the world. And layers of poor coping mechanisms and poor energy, whatever, it's getting stripped away, and it's allowing me to be more of that essence, that human that I'm meant to be, and keeping that frame, even as we talk about things like growth or self-improvement, like, how can we be coming at it from a place of love and healing and warmth rather than kind of, I must get better, I'm not good enough. And I think that's always the goal and the invitation for me as a human being and what I try to share with my audiences. And to your point, not everybody is wired like I am. I always say that we're very complementary to each other. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, she's creative, ADHD, and I am a dorky engineer that's obsessed with a schedule. And I always say we complement each other so well. Like, our boys are so lucky. Our family, our household runs pretty smoothly. You have these amazing ideas for the business, and then I get to execute them, right? But it does take us a lot of work to meet in the middle. And it's been cool over the past 8 years almost that I've known you, that we've been able to grow together professionally in the ways we've talked about, but also personally. I mean, you and I both have had to grow so much individually and together to come together as a healthy couple and set a good example for our family, grow our family. And I'm more proud of that than any work accomplishment. So I always make fun of Mary that these are hummingbird moments because one time
No, I'm not hummingbird. I mean, it's just I don't know what to say to that. It's like I don't know what to say to that.
Everyone thinks that I'm the soft one and like
it's the exact opposite.
It's the exact you cry at everything.
Mm-hmm. I do cry at everything.
I'm like soft on the outside and then like rock solid in the middle.
She cries at nothing.
No, I do. I just process my way. And then you're like an M&M. You got the hard shell, and then in the middle you're gooey, gushy chocolate, and you're just a beating heart. And I love you so much for it.
Thank you. That's the way I am.
If you'd like to learn more about how to book Dorsey Standish for a speaking engagement or company training, you can learn more at dorseystandish.com.